Hi friends, welcome to this section Authors and Books of the Nationalist View channel. And today we have with us a very special guest, Savitha ji. Savitha Rao ji, you are most welcome and thank you so much for taking out time from your busy schedule. She has written a beautiful book. It's called Noise in Our Nation, and it's about the noise pollution about which generally we don't talk. Savitha Rao ji is an author, and she is also, promoting on-ground activities to curb noise pollution. And with this book, when you order this book, you get a very beautiful, earplug pair, as well as a sticker which you can utilize in your vehicle to keep on reminding you and other people around your vehicle that we need to curb noise pollution. This is a less talked about subject, and uh, whereas the impact is visible in everyday life, and probably we have internalized the noise pollution so much that we don't even talk about it. So, Savitha Rao ji is based in Mumbai, and our viewers are most welcome to ask her any questions. When we'll post this video, you can write your questions in the comment box, and then we'll take these questions to Savitha Rao ji, and she'll answer that. Hopefully, answer that. So, Savitha ji, many congratulations for your book, and please tell us something about yourself and how and how did you choose to write on such an, I would say, a much needed subject, but pretty unconventional.
Thank you, Arunji, for inviting me. I'm happy to be on your show and to connect with all your viewers on this very important issue of noise pollution, which we in India need to now start taking seriously and do something about it. So, to share a little about myself, I run an initiative called India Positive Citizen, the goal of which is to invite every Indian to do one good deed a week. So, our motto is one action once a week, every week. Building a great nation, one India positive action at a time. And these are actions for all age groups, from children to senior citizens. Everybody can participate in their own way with small, simple actions. The focus is that it be done consistently. Now, about around 2 years ago, I was standing someplace waiting for a taxi to come, and there were people around smoking. The road was dug up, and I couldn't really move from that spot because the vehicle had to come there. And I have a strong nicotine allergy. So that 10-15 minute exposure to that smell set off an allergy. I developed cough, cold, fever. For nearly a week, I was at home. I couldn't sleep very well. I was sleeping at odd hours. So when the sleep cycle was disrupted, what I found was the sounds around me started to get very exaggerated. I could hear every honk in the neighborhood, the loudspeakers, every kind of noise was becoming more pronounced. And it then struck me that, I had a condition that would have gotten cured in maybe 3, 4, 5 days. So I knew that the healing was inevitable. But there are a lot of people who have prolonged, health issues, and they really need rest to recover. And this level of noise in our country makes it difficult for anyone who's battling a health condition to get well soon. And so that's how it kind of triggered this idea in me to write a book. And then I started to research about it. Even before this incident, I was always very, mindful of noise. And, I don't even keep my phone on a ringer tone or listen to any loud music. So I've always preferred quiet even before that. But this experience really highlighted to me the problems that noise poses from a health perspective. So then I started the research. And what I found was, an eye opener for me that there are so many aspects to noise. Honestly, when I started writing this book, I thought this is going to be like a really small book, with very concise chapters about noise. I thought, how much can you write on noise? And eventually, this became like a 350-page book. And I could have written even more, but I had to, stop myself from putting more content into the book because there's so much about the subject. that can be shared with people. Also, one other thing I did when I looked up books on noise pollution, what I found that they were more oriented for professionals in the field or for somebody with a science background. Whereas noise is a problem that affects every citizen, irrespective of what stream of education you followed. You were an arts graduate or a commerce graduate. Noise is still affecting you, so you need to understand it and take action. So I realized that there is no book which is written for an literate urban Indian to help them understand, what noise pollution is, and equally importantly, what they can do about it. So that's the genesis of the book, uh, you know, and the motivation behind it.
So you have the most common form of noise pollution we face every day, especially uh, the metropolitan cities, and now also the non-metropolitan cities, is the horns which are honked by the vehicles. So if
Right.
you could, you have given a complete one chapter on that. So if you could talk about it a little bit and how we can reduce that.
Sure. Now, I'll before I get to that, like to share some interesting statistics for your viewers. Now, when I was doing research, I looked up the number of vehicles per, in a few sample cities to get a sense of what is the level of noise in that city caused just by honking. Okay, now if we take the example of Bombay, Bombay in 2023, towards the end of 2023, had 4.6 million registered vehicles between four-wheelers, two-wheelers, three-wheelers. Now, let's assume that on any given day, only 70% of the vehicles are on the road. That's roughly around 3.2 million vehicles. Now, let's make a very, very conservative, assumption that these vehicles during the course of the day will honk only 10 times. 10 is a very conservative number because on an average, a lot of people would exhaust 10 honks in maybe 2-3 kilometers. But let's assume that they will honk only 10 times during the course of the day. Now, if 32 lakh vehicles honk 10 times in a day, that translates into 322 lakh honks in the city of Mumbai, which is a size of 603 square kilometers. Now, that's a lot of noise, right? And every day, new vehicles are getting added. And the noise on the roads today is not limited only to honking. There is the metro train, there is the suburban train, right? So all forms of transportation is creating noise. Now, when when we look at transportation, there are two kinds of noise. The vehicular transportation I'm talking about. One is the noise of the vehicle in motion. So when a car or a bike is moving, it creates a certain amount of noise. And then add on to it the noise of the honking. Now, what we are proposing through the book and through our on-ground campaigns is that people, this is a civic issue, really. It's a bit like littering. कि हम टॉफी खाते हैं फिर उसका कचरा वहीं पे फेंक देते हैं रैपर. So honking is a bit like that. It's acoustic debris. You can look at it that way. Now, it requires us some amount of discipline, like the way, for example, in Swachh Bharat, we exercise the discipline of not throwing litter just about anywhere, but putting it in the bin. This also requires some amount of discipline. So what do we need to do here? If we are driving a four-wheeler or a two-wheeler, we have obviously control on what we can do. So we need to choose to not honk. Second possibility is you may not be driving yourself. Maybe you're traveling with a family member, or you're using a public transport, you're using an auto or a taxi. At such times, if it's a public transport, you can speak with the the auto or the taxi driver and request them to not honk. And they will, in most cases, I find that they do comply. They do cooperate. Now, if an auto or a taxi driver, 10 times in a day, they get asked by people कि आप honk मत करिए, honk मत करिए. So over a period of time, this will also start to influence their own behavior. Even when they are driving alone, there is a high possibility that they will start to honk less and eventually not at all. Now, in the case of two-wheelers and three-wheelers, an important point to understand is when a person on a two-wheeler honks, the first casualty of the noise is that person himself or herself, and then anybody else who is in the vicinity. So when they choose not to honk, they are actually sparing themselves of the impact of noise pollution. So that's the first benefit for the person itself. So it's very simple. You can make your city quieter every time you step outdoors by not honking if you are the person driving the vehicle, or requesting whoever is driving the vehicle to not honk. So if all of us just make the effort to say this and to do this, we can have significantly quieter cities. Now, Arunji, there is one aspect I'd like to bring out here. Noise is not the only problem we face in our cities. Now we are facing, heat. In the monsoon, we are facing floods. There is humidity, there is air pollution, there is the stress of our own lives. There are people who are, dealing with health conditions. So noise is one of your many problems. The other problems also need solutions, but those solutions will take maybe a little longer. Noise pollution, though it's complex, widespread, and large, if we decide that we want to do something about it, we can make our cities quieter very soon. It requires discipline at an individual and a collective level.
I wanted to ask you: are there any places in India which you are aware of where some work has been done on noise pollution? Are there some role models, or probably if not in India, in some other parts of the world? So, if you could talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So, it's a very great, wonderful question. We don't have to look beyond the borders of India for role models. We have wonderful examples of places in the northeast of India where noise pollution is, at least from a honking perspective, is minimal. I have personally seen this in Sikkim a few years ago. In Gangtok, I was going down a hill, in a vehicle, and on the other side, the uphill side had like a 2.5 kilometer traffic jam. It was amazing for me as somebody from Mumbai to see that over 2 kilometers, not a vehicle stepped out of the line and nobody was honking. I've seen recently, images and videos from Mizoram, where again people have expressed their joy and surprise that people don't honk in traffic jams over there. So we do have positive examples within in our own country itself. We need to make this happen in our urban areas. See why this is very important, because urban India today is a very high density space. Like Bombay, for instance, has between residents and visitors on any given day almost 2 crore people, right? So when the noise goes up, it is affecting the health of everybody in the space. So it's very important for us to make our cities quieter so that they are healthier and more sustainable places, not just for human beings, but also for birds and animals. Every Diwali there will be a whole bunch of people who will say that, oh, the pet dog is getting affected by crackers. But please appreciate that animals are getting triggered by the elevated levels of noise in our cities through the year. It's not happening just one day in a year, which is, I believe, that one of the reasons why we are seeing this increased levels of attacks by stray animals on people, is that the animal is also disturbed by the elevated levels of noise it is exposed to, and obviously the animal is not able to understand and process and express it differently. But when we make our cities quieter, we will make it safer, healthier, and more sustainable for all living beings in that space.
So you have one last question. You have, and then you can add, anything you want to add from the side. And we'll also share the link in the description box from where people can get this book. And
Sure.
of course, along with that, you'll get that beautiful and very effective, pair of earplugs and a sticker. So I got it when I got the book, and so I hope you really it actually basically has helps you to immediately translate into action what you have written and what you have cautioned about. So I think that's very innovative and that's a very wonderful approach also. That also shows the intent behind writing the book is not merely just to write a book, but to move. This book is actually basically a step towards reducing the noise. So you effectively want to do that. So you have given a very interesting chapter on the ocean noise
Right.
and its impact on marine life. So if you could talk about a little.
Yeah. So, conventionally, when we think of ocean noise, we think it is maybe the the sound of the sea, or when the ocean hits against a rock wall. So that's what ocean noise is all about. But ocean noise actually refers to the noise that is generated in the ocean as a result of human activity. So when a boat or a ship, travels on the ocean, it creates noise and vibrations which travel deep and far into the ocean. And as we know today, there's a lot of movement in the oceans due to ships carrying cargoes. There are cruise ships, there are boating ships. There's all kind of activity happening in the oceans. So that is actually affecting the entire marine chain and a whole bunch of species that live in the oceans. And this is something we really need to be mindful of. A lot of our problems, like for example, noise pollution, it's obviously a human created problem. But we tend to most often think of the problem as affecting only humans. But noise affects all species. Like I shared earlier, it affects animals, it affects birds, it affects the marine species in the ocean. There's been research which shows that excessive noise also affects the rate of growth of saplings. So even plants are not immune to the effects of loud noise. So noise is
So
affecting
one last question I wanted to ask you was that how we can start reducing the noise pollution at an individual level by doing some small things to begin with, at least around.
right.
And
So
but we
one
can teach our kids that okay, these are the certain things, like as you rightly said that the Swachh Bharat. Now we teach kids that you don't have to throw all this pastime that basically would litter and put it in the dustbin. And then there is also a increasing consciousness that you have to got wet and the dry waste into different bags. So these are small things which people have started doing at mass level. And so, in case of noise pollution, to begin with, if you could talk about that, what are the steps which we can take as an individual?
there are multiple steps. One I shared already was no honking. The other thing we can do is, we can see this tendency. This noise is first. Let's understand is not limited to the roads. It is extending to indoor public spaces as well. So there is two kinds of noise. One is in the public space, and one is indoors, which is your own home or maybe your workplace. So let's first take the indoor public spaces. Now, for instance, today, if you go to in a metro or you go to some restaurant, you will find people watching videos on speaker mode. Okay, now that creates a lot of noise for everybody in the vicinity.
Even in trains or even in
Trains.
planes, aeroplanes, I see basically, and people from all age groups.
Yes.
So, and actually, I never used to hear. I never preferred earplugs or earphones, and I would not listen to the music. But now I have been compelled basically to do that because there is so much of noise when I travel. It really rattles, and the problem is that you In fact, recently I was traveling in a train from Dharamshala to Delhi. So the the ticket checker, the TT, he himself was watching videos on speakerphone. So putting his phone on the speaker. Now some other people are also doing it. So when I thought, I should complain to him, when I went near him, I saw that he is doing the same thing. So then I thought, यार मैं इसको क्या कहूँ? मतलब so this is the extent of, and they are just not bothered, that they are creating, a nuisance basically for other people. Yeah, please continue.
So what we can do is we can request people that please आप इसको speaker पे मत चलाइए, आप अपना earphone लगा के बात कीजिए या वीडियो देखिए. So in all cases we may not have immediate success, but when people start doing this more and more, I think generally the awareness will increase, where people will feel that okay, koi aake mujhe tokega, so I might as well use earphones. So we will have to start talking about it, because if we just hope and wait that the other person will intuitively understand, it may not happen. And if they would understand, they would not be doing this at this point in time. So we'll need to start getting vocal about it. We can share about it also on our WhatsApp groups that we are connected with hundreds of people. So we can share that, look, one way to reduce noise and to make things more pleasant for everybody is to not put the phone on speaker mode. So whoever sees it as a message, they will think that, okay, I'm doing this, maybe I should not do this. So we'll need to have conversations about it. So that's the mobile is today, frankly, like a loudspeaker. So we need to unplug that loudspeaker and put the earphone on. Also to share this with children at home, with youngsters at home, and say that, look, if you're going to listen to music, please do this using a pair of earphones. Now, noise exists, Arunji, in other places that we are visiting during the course of the day or the week. For example, restaurants, shops, malls. Now, a lot of your viewers may resonate with this experience. You go to a mall, which is, in theory, it's an air-conditioned space. It's large. It's supposed to be comfortable. But you go to such a place, and after an hour or two, you come back home feeling quite drained and exhausted. And many of us may not understand why is this happening. One reason why that is happening is the level of noise that we are exposed to. So what we can do in such cases is we can request the restaurant that we go to reduce the volume of the overhead music. Likewise in stores or in malls. See, unless people put forward the request, the establishment may not understand that this is a botheration for the customer, because they think they are providing a happy, upbeat environment for their customers. But when they realize that the customer is not seeing it that way, and we may actually lose business because our establishment is noisy, I think they'll be more inclined to reduce the noise levels in their spaces. So this is definitely something that people can do for outdoors. Indoors, I would urge everybody to not run multiple devices at home at the same time. For example, the TV is running at high volume, grinder is being used, vacuum cleaner is being used. So all of these things add up to a lot of noise. So plan your activities in such a way that at one time you're not generating too much noise, within the house, because noise affects every age group, from infants to children to adults to senior citizens. So it affects everyone. The other point I would like to share in with all your viewers is, see, we need to reduce the noise level outdoors to make our cities more safer and accessible for the visually impaired. Because people who are visually impaired are using sound as their way to navigate in the city. So when the environment is noisy, they are not able to hear the tap of their cane to determine which step to take next. So when we make our cities quieter, in addition to it being healthier and safer for everybody, It will also be a better place for our visually impaired friends to navigate and commute independently with confidence, with minimal injury. So these are simple steps that we can take to to reduce the noise in our own lives, whether it is in our own homes or outdoors. It will require some mindfulness, it will require some assertive action. But if we all start to do that, I believe we can get to the goal of a quieter and a healthier India.
Thank you very much for taking out time, and once again for our viewers. This is the book. You can see Noise in Our Nation. So, Savitha ji, many congratulations for writing this book. It's a wonderful book.
Thank you, Arjun.
I'll recommend our viewers to buy this book and read it and implement the suggestions given here. And we'll hope to interview you soon about your another book also. So she has written another book and उसके बारे में चर्चा करेंगे बाद में. So Savitha ji, many congratulations once again, and to our viewers, if you have liked this conversation, so please share, like, and subscribe to the channel, and if you press the bell icon, you'll get notification for videos. That's it for this episode of Authors and Books, and we'll be back soon with a new episode. Thank you.